Hannah.
Hi, Laura.
You came to Studio City.
I know. I came over the hill to see you.
That's a long trip for people in other states. They don't understand. They're like,
I brought snacks
I'm
and
about to say,
everything over the
yes,
hill.
you have to like pack water and snacks and all that, a blanket.
I mean, I truly
pillow.
feel like that Studio City is as close to Hollywood as you can get without being in Hollywood.
Yeah, yes. And then it's also far away when there's traffic.
Right?
But today's a holiday.
That's right.
We picked that for you. Yes.
Thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me on. It is such an honor.
Well, we're really happy to have you. We've been wanting to do this for a while. So before we start the interview, Hannah Sward, tell me, what are your favorite pens for book signing?
Oh, like not the fat Sharpie.
Not the fat Sharpie.
I'd say the
Bit
thin.
X over the fat Sharpie.
Yeah. I'd say the thin Sharpie. However, yes. I don't know.
I'm holding up one that she's saying yes.
I have just used a regular pen because I found that I ended up doing, especially when it was here in LA at Book Soup, like love letters in there, like long. And then I realized like this is not sustainable.
Right. With the fat.
Well, and also you can't keep people waiting.
No,
like that,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like
You get people shifting in line waiting for that. Yeah.
So I'd say the felt tip, I think it's called, Sharpie.
Okay. Felt tip Sharpie. That's felt tip Sharpie.
We're making notes for you, honey.
I don't know. I haven't signed any yet.
I'll have to circle back to you.
Yeah, I know. I put it on Instagram, those little like thought bubbles you can do every day. And I got a bunch of responses. So I just wanted to ask you.
Oh, I'll be curious what other people. Yeah. I noticed at the bookstores, they usually had a fat Sharpie.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
We did something at Book Soup with a friend of mine, Christy Tate. Shout out to her. And they had the fat Sharpies in the podium waiting for her.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. I am Laura Cathcart Robbins, and this is the only one in the room. But I am never the only one in this room because, as usual, my boyfriend, producer, and co-host, Scott Slaughter, who I call Hun, is here as well.
Hi, honey.
Hey, Hun. So, like I said, today we are talking to best-selling author and essayist Hannah Sward. And I know I said before we get into the interview, but really before we do, have to shout out Christina Simos.
Simos, Christina.
Voice of an angel, soul of an angel, heart of an angel. Yeah. Love her, love her, love her. And especially grateful to her for connecting the two of us.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah.
And she was the reason that I started this book.
Oh, good. So we're going to talk more about that. Yeah. And actually connecting the three of us because she connected Scott and I with you because she wanted this to happen. So, Strip, a memoir. Mm-hmm. It's a double entendre. Because my book is called Stash, which is also a double entendre. Mine is like stashing away pieces of myself. Yeah. And then like the stash that a drug addict has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Tell me about yours, the double entendre.
Well, it was only ever a working title. And then 5 years into it, after calling it that as I was working on it, and I could not find a title that landed.
Right.
And I just would be like, well, I'm trying to name Strip. And that went on for another 3 years. And I had different titles, but this one I like one-word titles. I like, it describes the writing style. It describes to me, just like what I said in the opening about stripping away to the authentic self.
Yes.
Less to do with stripping itself.
Even though that's in there.
Yeah.
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 But it's not really about that.
Right.
What it's really about is your journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I got from your book. How long did it take you to write it?
I didn't set out to write a book. I began writing again. That was what I wanted and needed to do and was called to do. A book, however, I didn't sit down to write a memoir.
Well, you said something like Christina had something to do with it.
She had something to do with me writing again. She said now it's like 12 years ago. She said 5 minutes a day because I was not writing, and I was so pained by it, and I didn't know where to begin. And 5 minutes a day is how it all began.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I had a really similar experience after I got sober. I had been a voracious reader, and I had written. I say that I wrote every day. That's actually not true, but I wrote a lot from the time that I was 5 on. Journals. I have boxes of them upstairs from that I referred to while I was writing. But it came to a screeching halt after I got sober, and I didn't know how to start that engine again.
Me too. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I had been keeping journals, I think, exact same age, 5, and referred back to them as well for the book. And then when I got sober, it just nothing. And
at first I wasn't terribly worried because I was like, I'm doing really important work here getting sober.
Yeah.
And I thought this will come. But then it didn't. It didn't come on its own. So I took classes. That's what I did. I took writing class after writing class after writing class. But I love that she had you write for 5 minutes every day.
Yeah.
How did that progress?
Well, that progressed. One, for me, what translated to 5 minutes a day, I found it more me to do 2 scribbled pages a day.
Okay.
2 shitty scribbled pages a day, and just keeping going. And that was in my, those school journals. Mm-hmm. And I did that for probably about 2 years. I just kept going. And I really, it's parallel to the recovery of like one day at a time.
Yes.
Right? It's 1 page at a time, 1 word at a time. And even after all these years later, after writing it, it still comes back to that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like I have these big things, and it's like, and then I get overwhelmed, and then I get paralyzed, and it's like, no, it's that 1 word on the page.
Yes.
And then the next, and then the next, just like sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You've been sober for a while. Do you say how long you've been sober?
Yeah. 12 years and 9 months.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Somewhere around the time that you started writing again.
Actually, it was 2 years into, in the 12-step program, it was suggested that I finish my steps first.
Sure.
And that took a while, and then I did. Yeah.
So this book is written in snapshots. Is that intentional? Is that how it came out? Did you deliberately say this is going to be the structure of this book?
Definitely not. No, the initial draft, but I wasn't looking at it as a draft, was run-on sentences. It was breathless. It was like, and, 'cause it was like I was moving. I couldn't tolerate sitting for 2 pages. So it was, especially after using and drinking for so many years, sitting with myself was intolerable. So can hear it in the early drafts of the sentence. Well, I wouldn't even say structure.
Right. So just the sentences. Yeah.
So this part came quite a bit later. I always forget that my mentor wanted it then to be a one-woman show.
Mm-hmm. And who was your mentor?
Jill Sherry Robinson.
Who was also a guest on our show. We love Jill Sherry Robinson. Right, hon?
Probably one of the best storytellers.
Oh, my goodness. We almost was just like, okay, forget our format. Just tell us stories.
Yeah, I know. We're going to maybe have her back and just have her tell stories.
Yes. Yeah. Oh. But I'm so glad you brought her up, because I was going to bring her up if you didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Yeah. She was saying that she wanted you to what?
No, I love that. And I didn't know she was on this show. And I'll have to go back and listen to that. Yeah, she's a great storyteller.
Oh, my goodness. And the OG storyteller.
It just like,
Yeah.
Unbelievable. What was...
So you were saying that your mentor was like guiding you to...
Oh, yeah, to do a one-woman show.
A one-woman show. Right.
And I just, one-woman show, not it. But I think the snippets came out of it being structured more like a one-woman show. Mm-hmm. And I've always... I like bite-sized. I like to read like that. Yeah.
Okay, you got her. I just didn't want her panting all around the studio. You like bite-sized. So do I. I like bite-sized too. It's one of the reasons I enjoyed your book so much.
digestible.
Digestible. I could read it easily. I could read a few chapters. I could put it down, pick it back up. I didn't feel like I had to go back and read what I missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in a
Or
way,
catch up, you know what I mean? Like to remind myself.
yeah, and I do feel like I like to look up when I, pick up a book from the shelf. I just open it to whatever page.
Yeah.
And I like to be able to jump in, and of course read it from the beginning. But when I'm choosing a book, and with these, it was like I thought at one point it was going to be a short story collection because that was what I had been publishing for quite, a lot. Yeah, publishing before, and I wanted it to be that someone could just open it and then see, oh, like the top chapter, Dope and Bald Pussies. I'll read that.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah.
and you don't need to read the previous chapters to
Yeah. We just watched a series like that, Kaleidoscope, on Netflix,
oh, I got to check it out.
where you can jump in at any episode. You don't
Or you can watch the episodes in different
order.
in
Yeah.
many different orders.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And did you watch that, Sue? Not yet. Susan here doing our video. She's not on a mic, though, so it's not fair to ask her questions. But, yeah, you should check it out because it is so that you could watch them in any order you want, basically, and still get the story.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really big on reading poetry, and that's what I think of with poems. Like when there's a very long
very
poem.
poetic. Yeah.
Thank you.
But you're saying when there's a very long poem.
Yeah, I just like to, sometimes I'll just grab one line.
Yeah.
And it'll stay with me for,
Tell us about the memoir. Tell us, like, if not your elevator pitch, but just tell me about the book for someone who might be interested in reading it.
Should I just read the back cover?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So this is the back short cover. Born in the Bohemian 70s, Hannah Sward was abandoned by her mom and lived with her poet father on an island with no stores or cars. Kidnapped and molested by a stranger at age 6, she grew up to be a stripper and a prostitute with a taste for crystal meth, which seemed to be a surefire way to lose weight, with stops along the way for silent gurus, sugar daddies, and drinking in the CVS bathroom before therapy sessions.
Yes.
Yes, I can't wait to talk about those.
Yes.
Painstakingly honest, often humorous, Strip is a heartfelt memoir revealing a woman's journey from innocence to a dark existence and beyond it to a world of empowerment.
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you for reading that. Did you write that?
Yeah. Actually, Jill and I wrote it together.
Jill and you, of course. I can feel her flavor in there.
Right?
I can hear it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You listed a lot of things there that some people might be afraid to reveal or write about.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything in there that you were particularly hesitant to write about?
Yeah, there were scenes where I wasn't sharing all. And again, my mentor, I remember reading one scene where I'm in a hotel room with a man. Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty raw scene as it is. And I read it and she just looked at me and she said, "Stop. Something's missing." And I'm like, "Oh, God, you're good." Yeah. And she's like, "Just go home and write it up." So I did.
Wow.
And yeah, there were certain things I didn't want to put in there. And not only that, there were certain things that I couldn't put in there emotionally until like a few drafts in. Mm-hmm. Then I could go back in and flesh it out and remember, for one.
Yes.
And go there emotionally without
yeah, like, because it's so, well, for me,
yeah,
I had to be ready.
Yeah. And
if I wrote things that I wasn't ready to write, it was like traumatic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
And yeah, and my body just wasn't ready for that yet.
Yeah. And to be in touch with that itself is amazing.
So I pulled a snapshot chapter for you to read to us, if you wouldn't mind.
I'd love to.
It is called "Let Me See Your Pussy."
A moment of silence in the studio.
No, Serena came running over.
We're talking about cats.
I'm
Serena.
not talking about cats. Serena's our dog.
Oh.
That was really funny.
That was funny. She's smart. She's so good.
So, Hannah, yeah, it's a short chapter for everybody that's listening. It is really engaging and compelling. So, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for choosing this chapter. I actually forget what it's about, so
Okay.
but I think the title. Let
Yes.
me see your pussy. I got another job as a hostess at Chez Henri in Hollywood. Henri Louis, the owner of the restaurant, enjoyed sharing ecstasy with all his girlfriends. They danced around the restaurant. As I cleaned the menus, Henri would grab me, whirl me into a dance. "Life is beautiful. Dance, little hostess. Dance," he'd say, swinging his thin French arms around my waist. Then he'd let go and link his arm around another girl. He was not for me. The tall, blonde Swedish bartender never talked or made eye contact. He was the one for me. He kept his hands busy, wiping down the bar and cleaning glasses. He'd hold up a glass, look right through it in my direction, then take the white bar towel and simply polish around the edges. I hoped it was me he saw through the glass at my schoolgirl hostess desk, but it never seemed like he did. One night we worked late. He asked if I needed a ride. I said yes, even though I didn't. I sat in the 1970s midnight blue Mercedes. Neither of us talked as he drove west on Venice Boulevard, speeding past motels, McDonald's, Costco, hitting all the green lights. He didn't ask me where I lived. That didn't matter. We were on our way to the water, and I wanted to lie next to him on the night sand. He stopped at Seaway Motel on Lincoln Boulevard. I followed him in and down the hallway to room 204. 2:30 a.m. We entered. This was not us on the sand lying next to each other. There was a TV playing porn. Two guys were watching it, not paying much attention to the two beautiful girls dancing on the bed in see-through miniskirts and pink satin push-up bras. Holding hands, they jumped from one bed to the other. I was wearing men's jeans rolled at the cuffs, baggy Nirvana t-shirt, hair in French braids. My Swede took my hand. This firm, strong hand of his. It was as good as being on the beach with him. He introduced me around. I had to pee. I went to the bathroom, closed the door, and sat on the toilet. The tattooed Asian man opened the door and looked at me. "Let me see your pussy." "No," I said. He left. I finished and looked in the mirror. My braids were loose and I looked sleepy. I wished I were thinner like the girls jumping on the bed. I came out. The girls and their guys and the Swede were smoking meth from a glass pipe. They passed it to me.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me read it.
There's so much in there. There's so much in there. And I love the detail. I love that you hit all the green lights. I love the model and make and color of the car. I love that you wanted to lie on the nightstand with him, which I knew for sure you weren't going to get to do. I mean, even before we got there, I knew that was not going to happen. So I want to just talk about let me see what I want to talk about first, because I have so many notes in here.
Yeah.
Tell me, do you remember writing that?
Yeah, I do.
The fact that you end it with, you like basically give in, right? There doesn't feel like there's much of a surrender.
No.
Oh, this is what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
The diet culture.
Yeah.
And because you talk a lot about that. Tell me about that. The thin girls jumping on the bed, and how meth, like, fed into that, and like just talk about that to me.
Well, I first did crystal meth with my sister when we were working at the Gentleman's Club, and I was 24 and she was 21, and it felt like we were curvier than the other girls. And the other girls, there's like this kinship backstage, at least where I worked. And people, the girls, we'd all like trade clothes, but they weren't trading their clothes with us, their stage clothes.
Right.
And we were really offended. We really felt left out. And we realized it was because we were curvier. And we thought, well, we have to lose weight. So we did try a bunch of different diets. There's a chapter in the book where we strap on weights to go to Weight Watchers, so we're heavy enough to go, and then we take the weights off and go in there like, this is astonishing.
Right.
We both lost 10 pounds. And all the different diets. And we tried ice cream diet, caramel diet, potato diet. Anyway, none of the diets, those diets didn't work.
Yes.
So we asked a girl at the strip club, like, what's your secret? And she said lipo and meth. And we're like, great. All right. We made a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
And we got hooked up with a bag of crystals.
Wow.
And it really, the motivation was to lose weight.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a result of that, there's the high, right?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
I remember the first time doing it, and I will never forget. It was in Los Feliz, and it was a Formica table, crushing the lines, and I was all in. Yeah. It was the ritual. The ritual took me in. And I remember turning to my sister and saying, you go make the beds. I'll divvy up these lines. Yeah. And she's like, okay. Never quite took for her. But I remember that, and the snorting it through a straw and the feeling after of it dripping down my throat. Yeah. And however, it was never a party, or I never liked the feeling. I guess there was a part of me that did. It was this escape.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. This frantic escape.
You weren't a big drinker.
No.
But this served a dual purpose.
Yeah.
The escape and the thinness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And energy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this.
Yeah.
Because you wrote, you hadn't done meth in 2.5 weeks. You slept for the first time in 3 days. And then you couldn't stop eating.
Yeah.
Talk to me about coming out of that cycle.
Of
not doing meth. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The sleep. I mean, I never did heroin or where it sounds like a really gnarly. From my experience of meth, it wasn't gnarly.
The withdrawal or the detox. You were just awake.
Yeah, I was. Coming off of it, I was dead asleep. Right. Yeah. And then I was ferocious. I just remember, I'd make pancakes and then go back to sleep. More pancakes, back to sleep. Right. And it was more the emotional. It was the paralyzing depression. Yeah. The anxiety. Like, how do you go from being up here for so many years, and then you don't have that, or I didn't have that, and now I'm here. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And at that point, I think I was maybe 36, and I had never been a drinker. Could, have a, sip of wine, and I also thought it had something to do with being Jewish, which I have no clue where that ever came from. Like, yeah. Anyway.
I don't know where that came from either.
Yeah. I'm just like, well, Jews don't, anyway, that was, yeah. And at that age, the one glass became 2 glasses, became 2 bottles so quick. Yeah. That it was so scary to me. I thought, wow. And it was so apparent. Like, this is replacing the meth.
You wrote that you went to the store to get your booze, and the clerk asked you, "Oh, are you having a party this weekend?" Yeah. And so I thought that was really funny, first of all, because I've definitely had that experience. Yeah. And I'm not somebody who likes alcohol either. Like, that was not my drug of choice, as it were. Yeah. I was addicted to sleeping pills, and the alcohol helped boost them, but it wasn't my go-to. But at the end, I was restocking the bar and like all that stuff and ordering ridiculous quantities of booze.
And, going to all the different Trader Joe's, a $2 chuck, and then that the cashier would be like, oh, another party, and I have to, you hear often like, oh, I have to go to another Trader Joe's,
right? Yeah,
like,
that one's off the list.
Yeah, that one's off the list. I guess I'll go to West Hollywood now, and that's a bit of okay,
right? Talk to me about your therapy appointments when you were. You wrote about wondering how your therapist knew you were drunk. Talk to me about drinking to show up to therapy.
Yeah, well, I remember I had a therapist in Beverly Hills across the street from CVS, and I had a previous therapist where I was on crystal meth the whole time. I was with her for probably about 6 years, and I would do it in the bathroom before session and after, and
which made sense,
right? Yeah, I mean, you're going to be talking about...
You're not going to do it during it.
Yeah,
so.
like I'm going to be talking about, some childhood stuff that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Fortify yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, take the edge off.
Yes.
And with the drinking, so I had a new therapist, and I would go to the CVS and drink in the bathrooms there. I loved bathrooms. I just loved them. And even all these years later, it's so hard to walk in a bathroom, not kind of look around and look at the setup and be like, oh, this one would be a really good one to use in or to drink in, and there's a lock at the door, and no one,
it's like seductive. Almost.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah. And it was very early on where she, I would go in and she looked at me and said, we can't continue on if you come in like this. And
did you deny it?
No. No. I was done. I mean, I knew I had a problem.
Yeah.
And I got, I was very attached to her, even though it was just, I had only recently started with her.
Yeah.
And the next day I went to my first 12-step meeting.
You had a problem with meth and then with booze.
Mm-hmm.
Was sex work a problem?
That, it was a problem in that it was perpetuating the shame, the self-hatred. That was the problem.
Yeah.
Right? Throwing myself away. I mean, I had abandoned myself. I don't remember a time in my life where I was there for myself, right? Like when you grow up and you don't really learn how, I kind of feel like if other people aren't there as a child, it's hard. You don't have those models.
Yes.
So yes, it was a problem. And when I got sober, I had 2 sugar daddies, sex work, but
explain that, please.
Well, I had put an ad on Craigslist for an exclusive arrangement, which is very classy. Like the exact ad I found in my journal that I had printed out from Craigslist, and so it's the exact one is in the book. That ad, that my sister's mother-in-law wrote for me.
Okay,
she was Jamaican Austrian. Woman, 6'2", and she was also in that industry.
So anyway, she knew what to write.
Yeah, she knew what to write.
Yes.
Yeah, she's like, honey, you have soft eyes. We must get you, taken care of. And, and anyway, so she wrote that. That's the full confession of that.
Who answered?
A lot of different men. And she would help me weed through them with my sister as well. And, I mean, she wasn't doing it, but we, as a family,
Yes.
We looked at the
You were vetting all these applications.
Yeah. And a lot of them were, so like 200 roses for, I mean, the language was very, like roses. I mean, now it didn't take too long to catch on.
Wait, what does that mean?
Money.
Oh, money. $200?
Yeah. And I'm like, well,
that's not enough.
No. for an exclusive relationship. I'm like, no.
That doesn't work. So, yes, roses were no. 200 anyway.
Yeah, 200 anyway. Yeah. But I did, I found 2 that were
Acceptable.
And had an arrangement with both of them. And when I got sober, I knew that would make me drink. That I couldn't do what I was doing if I was not drinking.
Because
I had to drink in order to sleep with them. Or I felt I did.
Yeah.
And so
you had to be not yourself.
Yeah. Right.
Or numb.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
So the real Hannah would not be able to do that.
No.
And so then what did you do?
I had to make a choice. It's like the action that I'm taking, is it bringing me closer to a drink or a drug or farther away? And that one was so black and white, where it was like, and so with one of them, I let him go. I let him go. And then the other one actually hung in there for about a year without sleeping with me, but he would take me to Trader Joe's and take me grocery shopping, because at that point I had my sober job, minimum wage job.
What were you doing?
I worked at a friend's pet food and supply store.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great job.
You never know who you're going to run into
No,
at that food and supply store.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
great.
A lot of people that I knew, and I would like hide under this. I'm so ashamed. I'd turn bright red, the gym, and like people from there, and as if that's shameful versus the other.
Right. Isn't that funny?
I'm
it's like honest, dignified work, and that's the status of it, right? It's so funny how we are in our heads. Yeah. So you had that job, but it was minimum wage, so he kind of supplemented your income. For a year.
Yeah. And I was never very savvy with money and with the men, like getting more or anything. So when I'm saying, like towards the end, he would give me like $200 a month, but with a minimum wage job, that was huge.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This was 2010?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, you're good.
Well, I'm not, actually. That was a lucky guess, right, hon? Because I am terrible with numbers normally.
And there came a time, though, and it was because Christina.
Yes.
She's like,
Simos.
Yes. She said, girl, you need to make a decision,
Oh, my God, you sounded just like her? Yes. like the cadence? Yes, so her.
Yeah.
Yes. She said you need to make a decision.
Yeah.
So you were honest with her about what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was part of why I was attracted to her as a sponsor.
Yes.
Was that she, told her everything.
Let's talk a little bit about the Friendly House.
Yeah.
The Friendly House.
The Friendly House.
Do you want to tell everybody what it is?
Yeah, it's a women's recovery house, and they also have a sober living.
Yeah, the oldest one.
That's right.
In the United States. It's 80 years old, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, and it's had like 4 executive directors in its history, and Simos happens to be one of them. But it is an amazing institution here in Los Angeles, where we are.
It is.
And you ended up there somehow.
I ended up going to meetings there.
Yeah. How did you get pointed that way?
Christina would pick me up, and we go to Papa Christo's for Greek food. And then she said, this is one of the things that, is highly suggested if you're going to, be my sponsee.
Yes.
I'm going to pick you up, and it was a 5-hour night. And I'm like, this is just terrible. Like, this is...
Right, you were held hostage.
I was held hostage. And, and someone reminded me just recently that I would walk into the Friendly House for the meeting, and we would get there an hour early.
Yeah.
And to fellowship and talk with everyone. And
Which is just horrifying when you don't want to.
Yeah. I'm new. I'm just like, everyone looked already like they knew each other.
Yeah.
And I remember walking, or I don't remember, but someone told me who worked there, so that I would walk to the front desk for 2 years and say, I don't want to be here. I'm going to be in the basement. And so and I kept going.
Yeah.
And I eventually became very attached.
Yes.
And I went there, every Thursday night until they moved to Castle Heights.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's actually a house.
Mm-hmm.
So there was actually, which is unusual in LA to have a basement, but there's.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. It's, it does live up to its name. It's friendly and it's a house.
Yeah. And so many cakes.
Oh my goodness. Right.
Yeah. There was always cakes. And that was a
Yes.
problem, because I didn't, I was getting sober. I didn't
Want to
gain weight. And,
Yeah. What'd you do about that?
Well, I went to the basement and tried to stay away from them.
No, but how was your relationship with food after you got sober? Because you had lived in that diet culture for so long.
Yeah. Well, in my first 3 months, I did Adderall. I didn't know first. I really didn't know about recovery, and I didn't know that you weren't supposed to take, or at least speed.
Yeah.
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 Oops.
Yeah. And I remember one day I was at the gym. It was May 6th, Mother's Day, a challenging day at that time for me. I was uncomfortable. I remember getting on my bicycle, riding so fast home and taking Adderall. And so it was Adderall. And then I was at a meeting though, and a man stood up and he said, I have to come clean. I've been saying that I'm 7 years sober and I'm not. I've been taking pills the whole time. And I heard it, and then I knew I couldn't keep doing it. But I did for another month, and that was horrendous because I knew I was lying at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But specifically, I remember going to Hawaii for a wedding, and my sister and I were like, what are we going to do? Like, there's cake, like at a wedding.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, we'll have to bring Adderall. So that was my solution. And then after that, I went to the gym every day, which was really helpful for my emotional, and I did gain some weight. And then I also turned orange because I became addicted to carrots.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
My dad did that. I don't know if he became addicted, but he turned orange. It was to be a brown-skinned black man and turn orange.
I didn't even think of that.
It's a very strange sight.
Yes. Oh my God.
So you turned orange.
I
and
did.
Did people wonder, like, if you were eating a lot of Cheetos?
Well, my home group, there's a woman, she was very honest. She said, honey, you look terrible. You are orange. And so my vanity took over, and I realized I really was. It wasn't just a shade of orange. It was orange. It was like a pound of carrots a day I was eating.
Yeah, it'll get right into your skin.
Yeah. I remember going and like saying, how am I going to not eat carrots tonight? They're like, girl, just don't drink, no matter what.
Yeah.
So I went through some strange diets, cabbage soup diet. I had some strange diets, and when I got sober.
How is your relationship with food now?
It's healthier than it's ever been. Yeah. Like, I mean, as I said that on Saturday night with my sister, we ate a whole loaf of bread and made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So I don't actually know if that's so normal. We're like, we just went through a whole loaf of white bread.
Were you standing up?
No.
Well, sometimes when you're like standing and eating, it's
yeah, standing and then sitting on the counter, and then we would sit on the couch and take a break, and it's healthier than it's ever been though. Like I allow myself, indulgences, and I don't, I can have pancakes without then running to the store to, get Ben and Jerry's and licorice sticks and a hot dog. I can, although I did that on Christmas, but that's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the first things first, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the first thing it's the most important thing. It's the thing that allows you to be yourself. Yeah. And that's not numbing or, I'm saying yourself, but I mean myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing that allows me to be me is to not have a substance in my system that impairs that.
Yeah.
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 we talked about the writing process because I wanted to talk to you about that, but we kind of put that up top.
Yeah.
Tell me about getting published.
Let's see. Well, in my 20s, I had been publishing short stories, and I was pretty disciplined with that. I think growing up doing ballet, there's that the disciplined edge, and I think, so I remember creating a project for myself. I thought, this year, I am going to collect 100 motivation letters, and all the way back then, I would call them motivation letters. I didn't like the word rejection, and I did. I got 100 of them, and I still have them to this day. That's when they would have them in paper, because they didn't have, it was paper.
Yeah.
Way back.
You got mail.
Got mail. I got mail.
Like in your mailbox outside.
Yeah.
Physical.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then when I started really going down the path of drinking and using, I think I was still publishing here and there. I always think I wasn't, but then I see, and and then what happened? When I was sober, I remember meeting a columnist from the Fix at the gym, and we were talking. And
what's the Fix?
It was a recovery site. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just asking for our listeners.
Yeah, for listeners. Yeah, it's a recovery magazine, online magazine. And Amy Dresner at the time was, doesn't matter. Yeah, she's who I ran into at the gym, and we started talking, and I said, there's this, I would really like to read something about, or, sugar daddies in and out of sobriety. And anyway, I sent her something, and then I started writing for the Fix. So that was the entry into publishing, like is recovery oriented.
Yeah.
And
I got a couple of motivational letters from the Fix myself.
And now look at you.
And now look at me.
Now look at
Fix.
You. Yeah. The publishing was very, very challenging, though. It became, especially with the book.
Yeah. Tortoise Books.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was just going to read to you what I found on their site. It says it focuses on quality, not quantity, or more accurately, we know quality will bring quantity down the road in the slow and steady race to win discerning readers. We're an imprint that's using the best attributes of the old industry, extensive editing, heavy pre-publication, publicity work, financial structure, blah, blah, blah. And I'd never seen a site that talked about publishing like that. It's like, if you look at almost any other site, it doesn't say this.
Yeah.
It's really cool. How did you find them?
I had a couple agents, and I just was like, it was such a long process with the agents, and then they both changed roles, and I got a New York agent because the first one was in London. And during the pandemic, I just started sending my book out to independent publishers and querying agents. And it was a very, very long process because I finished writing this book probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I would put it down, and I'd query more, and then I would, and I found Tortoise. I had read, I think, one of their books, and it spoke to me, and I thought, this is interesting. It kind of, it just spoke to me, and I thought, I'm curious about this publisher.
Yeah.
And
it was a fit.
Yeah, he read it within 2 days and came back, but I was very, I wasn't ready to publish. It took me maybe a year and a half before I said yes.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're courting publishers and agents, and then you get one, and you're not ready to publish.
Right.
Well, why was that?
Well, because then at that point, I was talking with different publicists, and they just kept saying, you have to get an agent and get with a big publisher. Like, this book needs a big publisher.
You didn't know if you wanted to pull the trigger with a smaller press.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And I really had to, meditate on that for a long, about a year.
A year and a half.
About a year and a half. And, and in that time I got another agent, and just, after so many months of getting quiet and really asking myself what it is that I want, coming back to that, being with a publisher who's aligned with me, my pride and my ego wanted to be with a big publisher. And I think there is more exposure possible with a big publisher.
And you exposed yourself a lot.
Yeah. The publicist is like, I don't think I've met a writer. Like, I've never worked with a writer that works as hard as you do.
I mean, you were everywhere. You were everywhere. Even if I hadn't known about you, I would have known about you.
Really?
Yes. Because you were doing book signings. You were all over social media. You had people talking about you. The responses to your posts about Strip were so generous and prolific and loving. It was impressive.
Thank you so much, Laura. I mean, especially coming from you, because I've followed you for a while with the podcast and your own journey with the book.
Yeah.
And I love, I know it's interviewed on me, but I do love, I loved getting to hear about your process with your publishing deal and how that happened and how, if I remember correctly, sharing it with a friend and then she sent it. We
Holly
all
Whitaker,
we all have our own journey.
Yes.
And, people will say, well, how did you do it? What, it's got to carve out your own way.
Yeah. I think the discipline and the hard work are just not everything, but they're a lot. It's a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And it's not easy.
No, it's not.
Yeah. And persistence.
Yeah.
Patience.
And then so much quiet of what I'll say about this whole publishing process is an integrated experience. I've known writers that had big books come out and maybe they weren't ready emotionally to meet it on some level. This was such a long process that it was an integrated process.
Yeah, you were ready.
I was ready, and I really divine timing.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I could look back on the years prior, it's that faith that I would lose often. And it was other people that held my hand and told me to keep going. And when I say divine timing, I mean, this was my dream to publish a book. And my greatest fear was losing my father. And it happened in the same year.
Yeah.
And I think that is all higher power, right? Like a birth and a death.
Yes.
And holding space for both of them, right?
And I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Laura.
You had a really beautiful post about him recently.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's funny to see people's lives through social media and feel real emotions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, we've now met in person prior to this, so that was really nice. But yeah, I'm sorry for your loss. I didn't think about the birth and death in the same year, and I think that's actually kind of beautiful.
It is, and I'll be honest that I know when you reached out and this was the date, I paused because tomorrow's the anniversary of my father's first year anniversary, and I thought, no, this is where I because I love your podcast so much and how you both come across and what you've brought to the recovery community and people who aren't in recovery who get to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for that, and thank you for sharing this day, choosing to share it with us.
Thank you.
Tell us where people can find you, Hannah.
Bookshop.org. You could buy the book there if you want to support independent bookstores.
Yes, please support independent bookstores.
Or, there's always Amazon. And then there's my website, hannahsward.com. And there's different ways of buying it there. And
it's social media.
Social media. Instagram, Hannah Sward author.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember. And then
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
And then
no one has to remember, including you, what your Instagram is. Are you on Twitter or TikTok or any of that?
I'm not. I mean, I think some of the things I've done we're on TikTok, but
Yeah.
I don't have a
Yeah.
thing there. I don't know what's going on over there. Although I might join just to watch yours as you.
Mine that I actually don't watch either, but
Yeah. But
this-
Facebook and
yes,
Instagram.
you're heavy in Facebook. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this.
Thank
I really
you,
appreciate
Laura.
you. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you too, and I'm very excited about Stash, and the launch. I realize I'm gonna have to get there like 2 hours early to get a seat if I want to get a seat or get in the front.
To Skylight. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Simos is coming.
Oh,
So you can come together.
Well, yeah.
Simos will make a seat for you.
Yes. She'll have a row roped off.
She'll pick me up. We'll go together.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Hi, I'm Hannah Sward, and I am the only one stripping to reveal my authentic self.